All right. While we wait for everyone to join, we had a great icebreaker at this morning's panel, and so I'm stealing it. And I am going to ask you, Ryan, when you were little, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Honestly, I wanted to be the people that made the names for movie characters. So if you wanted to, like, if they're making an Indiana Jones movie, who comes up with the name Indiana Jones? So that's what I wanted to be.
Love it. I've never heard that for that answer before, and I think it's fantastic.
That's like being like a nail polish namer. That would be really fun.
It would be interesting. It's all up to creativity. There's no right or wrong answers. It's great.
Hey, you're talking to two marketers. Like, we get it.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our final session of our 3-day Revenue Excellence Summit, Race to 22. So this 3-day event would not have been possible without all of the work of our amazing sponsors. So thank you to all of them at the teams at Atrium, Spiff, Vidyard, Sales Loft, Chorus, Vericent, Concert, Demo Stack, Ring DNA, and Sendoso. We appreciate you all and all that you do. And we actually have Ryan from Vidyard here to talk to us a little bit about this great sponsor.
Yeah, so Vidyard, we do video stuff. So we essentially help sales and marketing leaders get their revenue goals, pipeline goals through the use of video, whether that's from a prospecting perspective, from a top of funnel perspective. And we've saw a big growth spurt over the last couple of years with everybody being sort of displaced, less field sales happening. So it's been a pretty exciting time to be at Vidyard with everything that's going on, as unfortunate it is. But from the perspective of that, I've been helping the emerging sales team specifically, which works with small, medium-sized businesses under around 200 employees, use video in their strategies, which has been really compelling over the last little while, because we're talking to anyone from a SaaS business to a hotel to someone that sells roofing refurbishments. So it's pretty interesting every day. And yeah, a little bit about maybe our sales org. We have actually gone down market for the last couple of years. So previously we were entirely in the enterprise space, but now moving to more of a freemium strategy. We're getting more involved with the SMB and emerging businesses. So we're seeing our sales cycle go from something where it's 25K average deal sizes and 3-month long sales cycles to now 20-day average sales cycle lengths and 6 to 12K average deal size, depending on where you are in the segment. So it's a pretty exciting space to be in. And yeah, it's a great time to be at Vidyard.
All right, well, great. For a little more background about today's event and the summit in general, it has been hosted by the team at Modern Sales Pros. For those of you not familiar, Modern Sales Pros is the world's largest revenue leadership community for those in sales management, sales and revenue operations, sales development, and the related supporting disciplines. Our mission at MSP is to create an environment for our 20K and growing members to answer questions they'd struggle to answer on their own and to help them see around corners. It's community problem solving. We do that through great live sessions like what you've been experiencing throughout our summit, through our robust online forum, and in the near future, in-person events, which I know you are all excited to get back to. For those of you who weren't previously admitted, you should now have access to the community. And if you don't, please don't hesitate to drop us a note via modernsaleshq.com. We are always happy to help. We've had a very full final day. We've had a full 3 days of events. We started our morning with this fantastic panel, Out with the Old, In with the New. Then we enjoyed mimosas and insights during our AMA with MSP founder Pete Kazanji. I promise I'm not in the cups. And we are ending on a high with a look into Vidyard's highly successful sales playbook. It's a great way to end this 3-day event. Now for some housekeeping notes. First, this event is being recorded. You'll have access to this recording along with the key takeaways and any resources shared on our previous events page on the MSP website. Second, if you have a question for Ryan, and I'm sure you will, Do not be shy. Please just use the Q&A function. This will make sure that it doesn't get lost in the chat because sometimes that happens. I like to send you all a lot of messages during these. We'll try and get to all of your questions during this event. But now, oops, got a little slide happy, sorry. Now, enough from me. I am thrilled to introduce our very lovely moderator for today's event, MSP's own growth marketing manager and moderator extraordinaire, Ms. Hannah White. So I am passing it over to you, Hannah.
Thanks, Elizabeth. I appreciate that. Before Ryan introduces himself, I just want to talk a little bit about what he'll be talking about as he begins sharing his screen. Today, Ryan's going to dive into the changing landscape of sales, how Vidyard has adapted to that changing landscape, quick tips for different channels, and tips for different outreach mediums as well. With that, Ryan, I'd love a little introduction about yourself, your sales experience, why you should be talking about this today.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Hannah. I first and foremost missed out on the mimosas earlier, which I'm upset about. I just found out about this, but again, my name is Ryan Frampton. I am now the senior manager of emerging sales at Vidyard. I've been at Vidyard for about 3.5 years. Before that, I was actually more doing like entrepreneurship out of university, where I started a marketing business selling to real estate agents, just different like Facebook advertising. If anybody has heard of the 4-hour work week, I think I have it right here on the bookshelf. I tried to live that lifestyle after I graduated. So I got up to around 100K of revenue and I was like, okay, I've made it. I'm 20 years old. We're good to go. And I flew down to Thailand and hired a bunch of people on Upwork and tried to live there. And after a month, all my clients fired me, and it was not a great experience. So I had $1,500 left in the bank account. So I decided to use that and fly home like a responsible person. And that's when I was like, okay, a lot to learn from that situation and opportunity. And what I articulated is that I'm not that great at actually doing marketing work. So Hannah, I envy you on that respect, but I'm pretty good at sales and selling contracts. And I like software. It's interesting to me. So that's when I actually got to Vidyard as a business development rep. And I spent the first 4 months there just grinding away, putting in a ton of hours, and was able to book the most amount of net new meetings ever in the company's history, just in my first month, and then also broke the record for my first quarter, which quickly gave me the opportunity to sort of fast track my career and get into an AE role after just 4 months. Then I spent the first year as an account executive, really working in the emerging space specifically, so companies under 200 employees, the smaller businesses, which was a brand new team at the time, as I mentioned before. And in that first year, I was actually able to close the most amount of new logo business in the entire company, even competing with like the enterprise team. So that caught a lot of heads. And a big part of how I did that was an inbound only team actually doing outbound. So then I got the opportunity to be a team lead. We're starting just the first outbound only team in the emerging space. Had some mixed successes there. We learned that's probably not the best strategy. So we then decided to do a hybrid team. And now I've been able to become a manager, senior manager, with now from 7 AEs now all the way up to 18 AEs and 2 managers in the department. So it's been a wild, wild ride. Vidyard itself has went from 150 employees to 350 in the last year. So it's crazy. It's exhausting, but it's fun.
Awesome. Yeah, we talked a little bit about the failure mentality and Pete's AMA today. He has this really awesome he shared, I don't think it's his concept, but he shares his concept about like the scarcity versus plenty mentality, and you just have to embrace the what are we calling them, mistakes, failure. You have to embrace the failure, and like it's good because there's so many more that you can make happen. But with that, Ryan, let's go ahead and share your slides and dive into the content today.
Yeah, let's do it. So I'll share my screen. Let's go.
Perfect. This is your show. I'm here to help the back end of things. Please submit your questions in the Q&A panel. I believe Elizabeth has it set to allow you to upvote and comment on others' questions. We want this to be engaging. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to Ryan.
Perfect. Yeah. So today we're taking the key out, turning the lock and taking out the playbook that Vidyard's been using over the last couple of years. So super excited to dive in around that. And I think what it comes down to is just the reality of the last couple of years being such a changing global environment. So we can't but realize that that's also changing the environment that we're selling into, then also the environment that our customers and prospects are living in and doing their day-to-days. And this is really, the proof is in the data, where HubSpot recently came out with a benchmark report, and they've been doing this consistently for the last little while. And what it's showing right now is that sales emails have actually 2x'd in volume over the last couple of years, and it's causing response rates to drop. And that's not just by 1-2%, it's dropping upwards of 30%. And as you can see here on this graph, it's continuously going down, and we're continuously seeing a more challenging sales environment up until even this month. So this isn't just affecting the prospecting side of things as well, though, because when people are more distributed, when people are harder to get a hold of, we're also experiencing at least 57% of B2B vendors are reporting longer buying cycles. And again, this might not just be a couple days, this could be a couple weeks, couple months extra onto those buying cycles. So with that, at Vidyard, we were experiencing the exact same thing. We were no different than any other organization. So we really took this opportunity to figure out, okay, we're seeing our sales cycles expand, we're seeing our prospecting not be as effective. That means that we have to adapt. If sales has changed, so do what our plays are, what our tactics are, how we're interacting with the market. So what we did over the last couple of years is we took a step back and looked at the basics and really tried to redefine our prospecting and sales strategy and energize it more. And what that's done for us is, over the past couple of years, we've actually doubled our booking rate over the last year alone, actually. So, and if anybody's not familiar with what a booking rate is, it's essentially, rather than looking at reply rate, it's looking at, out of the amount of people that you're reaching out to, how many opportunities, SQOs, are actually being generated. So if we're reaching out to 100 people, if 8 are booking meetings with us, that's an 8% booking rate. And that's really what we're targeting all the time here at Vidyard. And a part of this recipe for this repeatable process that we've been able to develop in these challenging times is we reflected on a few things, 5 specifically, if I'm counting correctly. One is targeting. The other is number of steps in the cadences that we're using on those targets. And then furthermore, the timing between those steps and the timing of the steps themselves. And then all the way, now that we get the opportunity, how do we humanize that sales cycle to really, again, provide more energy into it to amplify the speed of it.
The community, the MSP community, talks a ton about creating process around everything and automating everything. So taking it all the way through and pulling that thread to like reintroduce humanity into the sales cycle, I think is really important. So excited to hear more about that.
Yeah, in the world of marketing automation, we need to make sure people know that we're a human, right? That's key. So when we're talking about targeting specifically, some of the questions that we asked ourselves reflecting on it is, first off, who is our sequence for? Like when we're making a cadence, when we're making a sequence, depending on what software you use and whatnot, you'll call it different things. Who are we actually making this for? And most importantly, now in this changing landscape, how has their role and their day-to-day changed? This could also mean the channels that you can get a hold of them from, where they're more active on channels, how their day is structured. They might have been available all the time in the morning, now they're not. They might have had access to a phone, now they don't. We really need to reflect and ask ourselves, how has this changed and who is it specifically for? What criteria and what commonalities do they all have in common? So are they all coming from this certain background that we can reference? Do they all have this specific pain point? We really need to resurface that, because what we thought was the case 2 years ago, a year ago, even 2 months ago, might not be the same. The most important thing though is what can you see? What is scalable across each of these personas that you can reference very easily? So are they all using a specific marketing automation platform? Are they all using a specific recruiting platform? What can you see that you can immediately reference? Because just to your point, Hannah, we need to make sure that we're coming across as a human and that we're passing is this an automated email test or is it not? And one of the best ways that I find you can do this is by using something called like signals of intent. So this is really easy if you're a freemium based company, but you don't need to be a freemium based company. So in the context of a freemium company like Vidyard, we can see things like how many people just signed up for our free version, or if someone just signed up for our free version. That's a great intent to reference in your prospecting outreach to say, hey, I just saw this happen. I'm interested in learning a little bit more. This is what we've been doing. Now, again, it's unique to them. It's very situational. They know it's not just a mass email. But even if you're, say, selling recruiting software, if you can see that they just posted 3 job postings, that's a great thing to reference because, again, it's a signal of intent. They're actively hiring. They're making a transition to lean in more into that. Maybe your solution can help. And if you reference that, it's going to be very compelling and very relevant. And this is crucial in these times to come off with both of those things, compelling and relevant.
Definitely. You mentioned that it can work for folks who don't just have a premium model. Can you dive a little bit deeper into that, like what you suggest for those teams?
Yeah, for sure. So recruiting is one example, right? It's almost like asking yourself, what does your solution solve and what is their current state today? So if their current state for recruiting is just posting things on Indeed themselves, well, typically you can go on Indeed, see that they're posted a role. And then you could, from there, understand if maybe it's a recruiting automation tool, I don't know, who knows, that you can see like, how are they screening candidates? What's that process? Anything that you can see from an external perspective, and this will be very business specific. So feel free to chime in on the questions around it. Those are things that you can share your screen, reference in your cold calls, reference in your emails to really stand out that you did your research. And it doesn't need to be something massive. Like it doesn't need to be, hey, I saw you posted jobs and we help you streamline your candidate process. It can be something super small because all that you're trying to do there is to show them that you've done your research and that you're reaching out to them for a specific reason.
Definitely. Are you like, when you're recommending this, do you recommend a specific data provider, like this is intent data you can find, or just specific research on the account or company?
Yeah, so we'll use things like Built With for like technology. If someone just like implemented a certain technology, Crunchbase, right, which is a good like a signal is like also funding, right? Maybe people typically implement your tool after like their Series A, their Series B, or after they just hired their new VP of marketing or VP of HR. So you can use things like Sales Navigator of LinkedIn to do things like that. So tons and tons of different mediums you can do. It's really just about asking yourself is like, what are potential signals that would compel us to reach out and would be compelling for someone to get reached out by us? And then ask yourself, how can we see and identify that? The first step is brainstorming it. Because if you don't have any ideas, there's no way for you to know if it's possible or not. And you'd be surprised what's possible.
Completely. We've been talking about this a ton and in the Modern Sales Pros community about intent data and personalized buying experiences and everything. And we've heard a lot that it's hilarious that people think, hey, first name is a personalized email. Like that's not personalized outreach.
Yeah, it's different. Personalized and authentic is 2 very different things. Perfect. Okay. So I'm just curious, because this is one of the things that I know we changed up a lot over the last year around our cadences and sequences, is how many touch points we have. We've drastically changed this. So I'm curious, and I'm sure everybody else in the session is curious around what everybody else is doing. How many touch points should you have in your sequence, or how many do you currently have in your sequence? Is it 3, 10? Is it 25? And of course, if it's 11, probably pick 10. We couldn't have a million selections here, unfortunately.
There's also an option for other. So if you want to pick other and maybe post in the chat, if that's open for attendees,
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it is, or the Q&A, tell us a little bit more about your answer too. So we'll let this run for a minute or two, and then we'll go ahead and share the results. So Ryan.
Yeah, no, sounds good. So how we sort of thought about it is from the perspective of, you really want to make sure that you're staying top of mind and people know that you're trying to reach out to them without completely annoying them. So one of the best things that we recently done is we moved our cadences from being 25 days down to 10 days. And what we did to structure them is actually have the first 5 touches be really fast and really concise together. So rather than having them go out over a 2-week span, the first 5 touches go out within the first 4 days. And the way to not annoy people while doing that, of course, is to not send all of those 5 touches through the same email or through the cold call and leave a voicemail, because that would drive me nuts. That would drive everybody nuts. So instead, you want to use a variety of channels and messaging formats. So doing things like having one be an email, one be a LinkedIn direct message, one be a cold call. Really get creative with it. And again, if you have different mediums based on your business and based on your persona, definitely incorporate those in. And then from there, after that burst of 5 touches, you want to then slow down and let people continuously get nurtured by your content by sending another 5 touches at a continuous pace. But again, more far out, like 3 days separated each. And what we find is a lot of people will actually respond either in the first 5 days, or a lot of people respond in the last step of our cadence. It's almost 50-50 there, because again, we're giving them enough time to really digest the content, but then also people are seeing our message a lot more clearly when we're hitting them in different angles.
The approach to that totally makes sense. A question about the process behind it. So are you managing those touches between different mediums in one tool, or are you managing it in like an Asana checklist and then in different tools? Like, how does the process behind that work?
Yeah, so we use SalesLoft here. So we have different cadences set up based on personas. So if we're going after the like marketing senior leadership, like a VP level, we have a cadence for that. We have a cadence for like a demand generation manager. So someone that's more like role specific, like have a very specific task. And then we have cadences for like BDR managers, sales managers, VPs. That's another thing that we've changed recently is before we just have a sales and marketing cadence. Now we've got much more hyper focused on each specific persona rather than just having a broader cadence.
There comes that personalization again. It matters. We've noticed this too a lot in the community. Just the content we host, you're only promoted to people who are going to care. Like, that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, perfect. So that leads us to the best time and day to do your actual outreach. So when you're actually sending that first 5 steps, like what time do you send them all in? And I think the key thing that we did over the last year and 6 months, and we're continuously doing it right now, is continuously listen to what the data is telling you, because this can change from a month-to-month perspective, and you need to adapt and change with it on a month-to-month perspective, or else you're missing out and you're falling behind. So that could be as simple as like using something like a SalesLoft to actually have the ability to see, okay, we're going to send out this exact same email in the morning. We're going to send this exact same email out in the afternoon. Which one's getting the higher open rate? Which one's getting a higher click-through rate? Take the time to do those analysis and work with maybe 1 rep on your team, 2 reps on your team that are trying to get into more leadership roles. Have that as an opportunity for them to develop and work with you to continue building the strategy. What I found most effective though, is actually just asking some of our top like customers and people that are really jazzed up about Vidyard around what their schedule looks like. We asked to interview them. Hey, can I have 30 minutes with you? And I talked to them about the changing landscape and how that's affected their day-to-day. I asked them to share their calendar, share your screen. Do you mind sharing your screen? Show me your calendar. I'm just really curious. And you'll see, okay, like they're answering emails at 7 a.m. now, and before they'd answer at 9 p.m. or vice versa. And it's really, really interesting. If you can just 3 customers will tell you a ton. And it's blown us away. And the key thing here is don't blend channels in your analysis. And what I mean by that is when you're asking these questions, don't ask them, when are you most responsive? When are you most responsive on LinkedIn? When are you on email? When are you answering the phone? Do you even answer the phone? Do you even answer email, right? Like really using it as a channel specific analysis, because what's happening on LinkedIn will be very different than what's happening on the phone and email and et cetera.
Definitely. So our poll results are being published right now. It looks like 50% of you guys have 10 or more touch points. 38% of you have 3 touch points, and 13% of you have other. Other folks, drop it in the chat, drop it in the Q&A. What's the other? But Ryan, any perspective on this?
Yeah, no, I think that's really well aligned. I think 3 steps can be pretty decent depending on what type of context. I know when we're selling to our current customer base and doing upsells, we use a lot of 3-step cadences. My only concern with the 3-step cadence is it might just be leaving stuff on the table where maybe they're out of office for a week and then they get back, they're buried in 200 emails, and they're super compelled about the email, but they're buried in their emails, so then they just forget about it. So having a longer time horizon in your cadences allow you to factor in some of the things like out of offices, vacations, sick time, etc., while still getting your message across. So that's sort of my take on that, but it's pretty good. Sounds like 50% of people doing exactly what we're doing.
Awesome. And you're going to talk about that a little bit more, the time between, right?
I'm not sure. I think I just touched on it a little bit.
Oh yes, sorry,
Yeah.
my bad.
No worries. Okay, let's move on. I think the next question that I was really curious about, like when we're talking about the context of like mediums of outreach, because this is one of the biggest things that have changed. I know I talked to a ton of people that used to be super call heavy. Now they're resorting to email because people are out of office, they can't get on the line. I'm just curious right now in this current moment, what is your best performing outreach medium? Is it video? Is it cold calling? Is it email? Or is it something else? And especially if you click other, we need to know what other means for this one, because I'm very curious. I've heard some people using, what's the chat tool? Disrupt? Is that the chat?
Oh, Discord?
Discord. Sorry, I'm out of touch. I have no idea. But I heard someone like the other day, they're prospecting on Discord. I was like, how are you prospecting on Discord? That's so interesting.
I mean, if you like, that's like I would imagine it's like you joining another community and then self-promoting within that community, which a lot of communities like MSP, we say that's a no-no.
Yeah, no, exactly. So yeah, if you do select other, let me know. I'm very curious. Okay. So how we think about this is every medium has a purpose in your overall strategy. And it doesn't necessarily mean you should measure the effectiveness off of what is giving you the highest reply rate or what's giving you the actual bookings, because your LinkedIn message could actually have influenced the email booking, and your video could have actually influenced the cold call booking. And I thought these quotes from different respectable vendors out there was really interesting. So HubSpot, for example, they say 8 out of 10 prospects prefer to hear from salespeople via email. So probably a strategy and a medium that you want to utilize. Also, people check their phones every 12 minutes or 80 times per day. So definitely want to try to be there as well. And then SalesLoft, sales teams using video get 26% more replies. I'm not going to say no to 26% more replies. And then demand gen, 36% of buyers have gone to social media looking for product recommendations. Definitely want to be on social media. 4 in 10 people enjoy checking the mail. Something that we underutilized, but now we're actually leaning more into it and we're seeing the results from it. So the importance is all of these channels have their merit. We need to be leveraging all of them, and we can't just measure a specific channel based on it being the attributed source, because as we all know, marketing attribution, sales attribution, all this stuff, it's very complex. We don't get it right ever. I don't care what anybody says. We don't get it right. So let's make sure we're appreciating the context for all the channels.
Definitely. Can you double click into the direct mail campaigns you guys are doing? I'm very intrigued.
Oh, I'm about to.
Oh, okay, cool. Never mind.
we just got Alice, and
Oh,
leveraging
right.
that quite heavily with our ABM program. So from a top of funnel perspective, it's been really helpful, but I'll give you some ways that we can also use it from a prospecting angle and then also in the sales cycle.
Perfect. Love that.
Okay, perfect. So now when we're talking about each channel, of course, each channel can be either very effectively executed or very poorly executed or somewhere in between. So I'm by no means a genie or know everything about this stuff, but I have some experience around what's worked for us that I'm happy to share. So from an email perspective, it's important to just first empathize with the reality that business professionals receive 126 emails at work each day on average. And the higher you go on the totem pole with it, probably the more emails and the harder to get a hold of them. And much of it's spam, which again, to Hannah's point around the world of marketing automation, we need to make sure we pass the human test. So keeping the subject line short and even using lowercase letters at the start can be really impactful. If you look in your email inbox right now, I can almost guarantee most of the subject lines will actually have the ability to see, like, it's all capital letters it's starting with. So if you have a lowercase letter instead, it's a tiny, tiny pattern disrupt, but it works. And then also the shorter subject line, from what we've seen, the more impactful it is. The other key thing is start the email referencing the signal you found or what you notice. So don't start by saying your name. Your name is already in the email of who it's got sent by. First, start with what you notice. Hey, X person, I noticed Y. And then start talking about how you've helped other companies, maybe some customer stories, and drive curiosity. But the key thing is start with that I noticed talk track, or I saw this, I was compelled because. Make it about them, not about you at the start. And it looks like our poll results came back.
Awesome. So it looks like 73% of folks see the best performing medium as email, 13% phone, and 13% video. What do you think about this, Ryan?
Yeah, I think it's very fair. It's telling of the times. I think if we did this poll maybe a year ago, 2 years ago, I think phone would have been way up there. But email, because it's hard to get people on the line with being remote and not getting office lines, and it's hard to get their direct number. Email is a big thing that people are resorting to. And it's really, if you're mastering this, you're going to get a ton of results from it. If you're not mastering this, you're not going to get many results from it. Perfect. So the other way that we've really seen effectiveness being Vidyard, of course, we need to use video. It would be kind of weird if we didn't use video. Video is a great way to stand out in the inbox. And there are a lot of ways to remain efficient while incorporating video in your process. One of the biggest things I hear from new members of my team that I'm hiring, even though they're working at Vidyard, and then also potential customers, it's like, how do I make making personalized videos and authentic videos actually efficient? Is it going to take me forever to send them? But a little fun fact, on average, sales reps at Vidyard, so even the AE team, the BDR team, can create 25 authentically personalized videos in an hour. And then when you consider that we have also an 8% booking rate on these, this means every 100 videos that they send, which takes them around 4 hours of work, gets us 8 meetings on average. So that's really, really effective when you think about it comparatively to something like a cold call or just a text-based email. And the key tactics that can help you get that same booking rate as well, or potentially even higher, is actually personalize the video with a scalable talk track. You can insert signals or observations to. So don't make it a generic video. Don't just add some sort of fake personalization. People can see through that. What gets people to actually buy into the video is they feel that you actually did something for them and went out of your way to make it. Having their name on a whiteboard doesn't really do anything if they watch the video and then it's clearly not personalized. And easily just making those scalable signals incorporated in the start of that video can be an efficient way to go about this. And then also leverage that video multiple times through the different channels and with different subject lines and email copy. This is probably one of the biggest breakthroughs that we've had over the last couple of years, which has shot our booking rate up from 4% to 8%. And it was actually, the idea came up from a AE on our team, Rory, who came to me a couple of years ago. I think it was a year and a half ago now. He was like, hey, I have this idea where what if we sent the video that we already personalized for someone to them again, and then maybe a third time. And I was like, that's a terrible idea. Like people are going to see that. People are going to see that. They're going to be like, why are you sending the same video? That's kind of like spammy, right? I was not enthusiastic about it, but I was like, just try it. Like tell me how it goes, of course. And all of a sudden you saw his cadences booking rate just shoot through the moon. I was like, what is happening? And what the whole tactic was is, and he explained this to me, is when you are reaching out with that video, you just spent 2 to 3 minutes making that personalized video. Then when you send it, if you look at your open rate, we have around a 60% open rate on that email and a 35, 40% click-through rate. Well, that inherently means majority of people are not watching that video. So if we just take that exact same video 6 days later in the cadence, put that exact same video in another email with a different subject line, that will get another 60% different people open it, and then a different copy that's maybe indicating, rather than talking about booked meetings, maybe talk about closing deals. You're going to get different people watching the video. And what we saw is we get the same reply rate, which is a great reply rate, on the first email that we send, and then the second email that we send with the exact same video. And it's really changed the game for us. And then we've even started sending that exact same video over LinkedIn, because maybe they're just not clicking on videos if it's from an email. Maybe they'll click it in LinkedIn direct messages. So that's one thing that's really changed the game for us.
Definitely. A couple questions on that. So one thing, are you just filtering people by who clicked on the email and who didn't and resending to those folks? Or are you resending the videos to everyone?
We're resending the video to everybody that has not engaged with us yet.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Okay. So folks who just haven't,
my initial concern, right?
Yeah.
It's like, what if someone that watched the video sees it again? And we have not got one negative response about it. Because also in the context of it, in the second email, we start the copy with saying, as mentioned.
Oh, okay.
So it does have continuity to it for the people that have watched the video. And we're just changing up the value prop, and nobody's really given us bad feedback about it. It's just been good feedback. Because even if they watched the video before, maybe they were just in the middle of a fire. Someone yelled at someone. Now they're handling an internal dispute. Who knows, right? So
totally.
It helps re-engage them.
Yeah. And then, okay, I'm just shocked. 25 videos in an hour seems like a lot. Our team creates videos for some stuff here and there. How long does it take to get your team to 20, like to that capacity of creating 25 videos an hour? Like, do you have any tips for helping your team like streamline video creation?
Yeah, so I think it's setting expectations appropriately. When people come to me and say, oh, like, can I implement video and then I'm just going to succeed tomorrow? It's like, no, absolutely not, right? It's like, think about the first time that you cold called. We've all cold called before, right? No matter where you are now in your career, like we've been there. I remember my first time cold calling, I was in the room with my Vidyard manager at the time. My hands were sweating. I was like freaking out. And then I called this like VP of sales. It's like, I don't even know what I'm talking about. And then it was just a nerve-wracking experience. Well, that's how you feel when you first make a video, right? It's no different. And you're probably not that great on the phone for your first couple of weeks making cold calls. You get objections, you have no idea what to do. It's the exact same thing with video. And I think we think about it with this different standard, which shouldn't actually apply. There is a ramp time for making videos. So the first thing that we do when we onboard new folks at Vidyard is we give them a list of 50 leads and we say, hey, make videos for these 50 people. And every single time they come back to us at the end of the 8-hour day, and we expect they had 8 hours to make videos for 50 leads, they at least have like 10 or 20 done. They have like 1 or 2. And that's like, why? And they're like, oh, like it took me like 20 takes to make that video. And we're like, hey, it doesn't need to be perfect. The whole purpose of an authentically personalized video is it's authentic. I've messed up my words and juggled my words in this presentation. I do the same thing on videos, right? It's human. It's what we all do. And a part of that is being okay with that and actually understanding that that's actually going to help you book meetings, because they're going to see it's like, oh, it's actually Ryan making me a video. And then it's getting down to one take. And for people to get down to one take, it takes a repeatable talk track, like we've mentioned, that's referencing just an interchangeable signal every time, or I noticed X. And then from there, just a lot of practice over a 2-week period of time. And after that, you can typically get down to 1 to 2 takes. And after a few months, you can get down to 25. Some people make 35 videos an hour on the team.
Wow,
so
that's impressive.
The things I'd recommend.
Definitely. That's all helpful. I think I'm going to definitely take some of these back to the team.
For sure. Okay, very good. Let's move on. So just some ideas around video, especially like when we're talking about getting over the fact of using video as well, like putting yourself on like a selfie style video can be a little bit daunting. You're seeing your face, you're hearing your voice. And we've actually seen the selfie style video become less and less effective over the last little while. And what our team has been doing is actually using more LinkedIn screen share and website screen shares, or again, doing screen shares of those visible signals that you can reference, like a job posting going up. Because doing a webcam selfie style video like this is all about you. They don't know who you are. They just see this person's face and maybe their name on the whiteboard. But if you're screen recording someone's LinkedIn profile, what it's done for us is helped our reply rate, because people are like, why is this person on my LinkedIn profile? More importantly, why are they making a video of it? And then from there, if they're on the website and you're reaching out to a marketing folk or whatnot, that's really going to compel them, because it's like, what are they saying about the website that I'm responsible of? So it helps you to stand out. And it's also a good way to barrier the daunting, to lower the barrier of a daunting task of like putting your face on camera. When you're just this little bubble in the corner, that's a lot less scary than this full rectangle here. But again, video is not a silver bullet. We need to use the other channels, such as the phone. And in my opinion, the phone is actually one of the most powerful mediums for prospecting. So I was surprised when people only selected that a couple of times. However, maybe the reason why people selected only a couple of times is because this is only true if someone picks up the phone on the other end. If someone doesn't pick up the phone, you're leaving a voicemail. I don't know about everybody else, but we don't get many responses on voicemails that we leave. So it's important to use what we call strategic call timing. And one of the key ways, again, thinking about a signal or a reason to call, is if someone watches your video with certain softwares like Vidyard, for example's free tool, you can get an immediate notification on how long they watched. And that's immediate. So you can pick up the phone. They're probably not in a board meeting. They're probably not in a general meeting. They're probably answering their emails and just looking through it and not in a high priority task, which they're going to be more receptive to picking up the phone, which will increase your connect rate and ultimately give you more of an opportunity to book them in. And then when you're talking to them, they just watch 70% or 100% of your video. Now you're just not a random stranger. They have the context around why you're calling. So you're actually shedding seconds off that cold call and having more of a conversation rather than trying to get them to hear you out. This is something that we've seen be very, very effective, which again, goes back to my point around not measuring the success of different mediums by if they're actually booking a meeting with you through that medium, because video probably played a big role into this. The phone definitely played a big role into this. And if we connected with them on LinkedIn, maybe endorse them for something in the bottom, we've been doing that a little bit too, which gets some smiles. Then all of those mediums had a massive impact to you actually booking that meeting. Perfect. And then to answer your question earlier, Hannah, just around direct mail and virtual gifts, when you think about direct mail or sending physical letters or gifts by mail, it is a dependable channel and a good way to connect. But right now, the challenge, of course, is that we don't know whether someone's office is still a valid place to send a gift, which is why e-gifts are really, really impactful. And the key thing that we've been doing is actually referencing the gifts we send in a video. So we might hold up like a coffee cup or a Starbucks cup and say, hey, not sure if you had a chance to check it out, but I actually just bought you coffee. I sent you a $10 gift card to Starbucks. I'd love to sit down, have a coffee with you. Or if you're just busy trying to do things, still enjoy that coffee. I'd love to connect with you at a later date. Just feel free to file my email away. Let me know that this isn't the right time. And that's helping us get more responses, because it's a not an aggressive ask. It's really just trying to empathize with them, and it's going the extra mile, because people buy from people, right? People don't just buy from like some company like Vidyard. They're buying from Ryan, they're buying from the Hannahs of the world, etc. So that's one of the biggest things that we've seen. Also, offering someone lunch is a really cool way to get on a meeting. You just want to make sure, I think the one thing I'd caution you with when you're using gifts is don't get them on the meeting just so that they can get free lunch. You want to have some give or take, that they actually are interested in learning about your solution, because that's just wasting both people's time.
Makes sense. So Starbucks gift cards, coffee gift cards, lunch gift cards. What else works for direct mail, virtual gifts?
I'll go into some other things in the sales cycles part, but I think the key thing is also get to know the person, especially for the high value prospects. Everybody has a social media profile. You can see what things that they like. Maybe some people are big fans of like Yeti coolers or like mugs and stuff like that. I don't know if you want to buy everybody a Yeti cooler, but a Yeti mug is fairly low cost. Also, we've seen like people Instagramming like their favorite beer, or doing like Instagram stories of their favorite beer, and then calling the brewery and getting that shipped to them. Things like that can be really compelling to just get someone's attention, especially the more executive level, C-level they are.
Makes sense.
Okay. So that brings me into some of my other points around, like, these mediums just aren't for prospecting. So especially with virtual gifts and direct mail, again, people buy from people. So one of the key things that we're seeing get prolonged in sales cycles across the board right now at Vidyard, but then also with all the customers we're talking about, is extensive legal info security processes, where a lot of companies are using external legal right now, which is causing that to actually get delayed from actually getting the deal signed. So one thing that we've been doing is sending an e-gift card to, again, a local coffee shop, Starbucks, or buying them lunch, being like, hey, like, I know we've been going back and forth on the red lines recently, but just wanted to buy you a coffee. I appreciate everything that you're doing for this. I'm super happy to be working with you, and I'm excited once we can get this in your hands, etc. That just goes extra mile. It's not doing an ask. You're just, again, touching base with them as a human, letting them know that you not only care about the deal, but you care about them and you appreciate them. Goes a long way. They'll go the extra mile for you when it matters. And again, you can offer to get them lunch, same sort of thing.
Yeah, as a community, I think a lot of our content focuses a lot on like earlier in the funnel. So it's nice to see that there's some best practices around folks who are just trying to get over the finish line, because we talk so much about prospecting and earlier on in your cycle that this is helpful.
Yeah, opportunities aren't anything unless we can bring them over the line, right? And that leads us to something else. Of course, when we sometimes have dark opportunities that we're going well, we're very well aligned, but then maybe we don't hear from the prospect in a little while, how can we revive dark opportunities? We've tried to do a lot of gifting for this. It doesn't really work out in our experience. So what we have seen a lot of success with is actually using video to get creative. So one thing I've done when I was in AE a little while ago is I actually went on the roof. We're in Canada here, and it was December, so it was like a blizzard. I went on the roof in the Vidyard office in a blizzard and filmed myself. And I was like, hey, are you still wanting to warm up your outreach? I need to get warm. It would really help if I just get a response around if you're still interested or not. And I got a big laugh and was able to get a response. It didn't work out, but at least we were actually able to hear what happened. Another example is Josh Kirkham, one of the managers on the emerging team. He was actually getting creative to help his team get a deal over the line that was super well aligned. They even had a verbal, but then just fell off the face of the earth for a couple of weeks. And he decided to crank out the guitar and bring it back to his singing days and make them a little song. So I'm just going to stop sharing my screen and reshare to make sure I'm sharing sound. And I'll let you all in on this video. It's pretty entertaining.
Hey team, so I know it's been a while since we've heard back from each other. I just wanted to write a quick song just to see if we can realign, see what's going on, and just see if this is still on your radar. 'Cause I don't want to waste your time. I know you saw a lot of value in Vidyard. Have you changed your mind? Curious if you still see value in continuing the conversation. I know we got the quarter-end incentive going here. If there is any issues, let me know. I'm always happy to help, but if you have changed your mind, please let me know. Last thing I want to do is bug you.
And then immediately within an hour, he got a response. And then the hour after, he got a DocuSign signed. So get creative. It's time to energize your sales from a prospecting perspective, from sales actual cycle perspective. But with that, that's really all I have for everybody today for the presentation. So I'd love to hear any questions, ideas, concerns about anything that I went over.
We have one question coming in from Brock. He says, have you ever had any negative reaction to someone, or let me rephrase that. Have you ever had someone negatively react, thinking that the intent data is too like aggressive? It's like too much like spying on people. Do you have any perspective on that?
Yeah, I think we haven't. I don't think, at least we could have. I don't know. But I think it's all around what's behind the intent data, right? I think there's certain intent data that's super creepy, and there's other intent data that's just super relevant, right? So if someone signed up for your tool or they're putting a job posting up, it's fairly public, so they expect people to see that. But it's more for things that I'd get a little cautious around if it's something that they don't expect you to see, because that can catch people off guard. However, I would still try it, because what I've learned with Rory's idea around the first touch that then turned into triple video send, I was completely wrong about that. And I had limiting beliefs on my side where I thought that was going to come off very creepy and get people off guard. And I was absolutely wrong. So I would just say, yes, could be. We haven't had any experience with it. That's sort of the framework I'd look at it with, but I'd also have an open mind and just experiment.
Totally. No bad idea, or no idea is a bad idea until you have evidence it's a bad idea. So go for it. All the weird data, just test it out. Go ahead and submit your questions if you have any. I think I'm going to pass it off to Miss Elizabeth though, and have her wrap up today.
All right. Hello again. So thank you so much, Ryan and Hannah. It has been fantastic to have your insight on this subject. The recording and key takeaways will be made available shortly, so be on the lookout for our final daily recap of the summit with these links and more. Thank you again to Vidyard and all of our summit sponsors, and thank you to everyone out there for attending. We have loved having you join us for this Revenue Excellence Summit, and we hope to see some of you at our January community kickoff. So we're going to go ahead and put that link in the chat as well. And I actually just saw in the chat a comment about the color-coded book order. Ryan, do you want to address that before we log off?
100%. Yeah, absolutely. So my sister, I can't speak today. My sister is an interior decorator. So the first time she visited, she color coded the books. And the reason why I've kept it is exactly that. It's a conversation starter. Every single call I'm on, someone brings it up. It's a good way to break the ice.
Totally. I've done that with my books before too, and it's a crowd pleaser. Also, it's an interior decorator thing, but flip the books around, some of them, and people really like that. It's another good conversation starter. Like, so it's not the spine, it's like the book. Anyway.
So it's like the face of the book.
No, it's like the pages.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Very cool.
Well, can't wait to see you all again at our future MSP events. Drop in that link in there as well, so y'all can get registering for the next ones we have coming up. But until we meet again, stay safe and have a lovely rest of your day.